promoting a healthy environment. It's the air we breathe. Clean, safe water. Responsible management of our natural resources. We protect and restore for a sustainable future. The environment matters.
Those pollutants are naturally going to occur after we heat our homes, drive our cars. Where do they go? They collect in the atmosphere. And then the meteorology takes over to either push them along or to allow them to sit. And the problem is, of course, when they sit.
How weather can affect air quality and why for sensitive individuals, paying close attention to the forecast can have a definite impact on their health. Plus,
in 12 school years, we have cumulatively recycled 3,700 tons of recycling. And schools have earned $169,000 for what would have been in the trash.
turning trash into treasure. How one area school district is making a difference, one student at a time. Hello everyone and welcome to Environment Matters. I'm Kathy Cosco with the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection. For many individuals, especially sensitive groups including children, the elderly, and those who suffer from asthma and other respiratory and cardiovascular problems, knowing forecast levels of air pollution can make a significant difference in the quality of their lives and how they plan their daily activities. The DEP's Greg Adolphson joins us from Charleston. And Greg, most people think of air pollution as a big city problem, but that's not always the case.
Kathy, ozone and fine particle pollution can also be a problem in rural areas. It's helpful if you think of our atmosphere as an ocean of air, with currents that can move and disperse, but also occasionally can trap and concentrate harmful pollutants.
When the forecast calls for rain, most people bring along an umbrella. When the UV index is high, it's smart to apply sunscreen. But what about the air quality index? It's estimated that exposure to high concentrations of fine particles in the air and high levels of ground-level ozone contributes to tens of thousands of premature deaths every year.
We'll start with fine particulate matter. When you see dust, that's particles. But the dust you can see settles out. So that's not really the fine stuff. The really fine particulate matter stays in the air and you breathe it in. And the stuff we're looking at is like 2.5 microns in diameter. It's very, very, very small. Smaller, probably about 1/30th of a human hair, and I don't have a lot of human hair. Okay, so this stuff gets past your defenses. You've got your natural defenses, your nose, you've got all the mucous membranes, etc. That this particle stuff gets past that, gets deep into your lungs, and it causes health effects.
Studies show that fine particle pollution contributes to heart attack and stroke and can weaken the body's immune system. So how does weather affect that? The answer is in the form of a simple rhyme.
The solution to pollution is dilution. So pollution forms, and how do you get rid of pollution? You dilute the atmosphere. You can do it with a good heavy rain. Just think of pollen counts when they come up. You get a good rain and all of a sudden folks breathe the same, they breathe it much better. Well, the same happens with pollution. Pollution gathers, and if there's nothing to disperse it, the rain comes along and cleanses the atmosphere. And of course, the other part of the cleansing of the dilution is dispersion, blowing the pollution away.
WSAZ Chief Meteorologist Tony Cavalier has a lot of experience monitoring and predicting West Virginia's weather patterns. He says the state's mountainous terrain is also a significant factor.
What happens is the mountains act as barriers. Wind will blow whatever is in front of it. Now here in Appalachia, the steep hills, in a light wind regime, you might be able to push a concentration of a pollutant or anything toward the base of the mountain, but if there's not enough wind to get it to go over the mountain, the pollutants will get trapped against either the east or the west slopes of the mountains depending on the wind direction and speed, in which case then you have a higher concentration of pollution.
Another weather event that can affect air quality is what's called an inversion. That's when a layer of cool air forms over warmer air at the ground.
And that inversion can act as a cap and actually trap pollution that's being emitted beneath the cap in that area. And so what happens is if you've got an industrial source or sources in that inversion, and we're in a perfect situation like that here in the Kanawha River Valley, it's really susceptible to having that kind of inversion happen.
The ability to produce pollution in the atmosphere is always there. Now you get the right meteorology, and in the summer it's hazy, hot, and humid, but in the winter it's light wind regime with the air warmer in the mountains than it is in the valleys. And when that occurs, the pollution will concentrate, it will collect, and that concentration will go bigger and bigger.
Ground level ozone, or smog, is another pollutant that is affected by weather. It's typically a summer phenomenon in our part of the country. It's formed when what are called precursor pollutants, nitrogen oxides or NOx, and volatile organic compounds, also known as VOCs, combine in the presence of sunlight. Ground level ozone is an irritant to the lungs. On high ozone days, limiting outdoor exposure is recommended.
Now on a high ozone day, even if you're healthy, you don't want to get out jogging in that high ozone and overexposing your lungs to that ozone, because it's like getting a sunburn on the inside of your lungs. And it can cause, at some point, irreversible damage to your lungs.
Now the good news is that the air quality here in West Virginia is actually improving, and has been for the past several years. Kathy, finding the air quality index is fairly easy. It's available online and on many local TV weather forecasts, especially when it raises to unhealthy levels.
Thanks, Greg. The air quality index is based on 5 pollutants regulated by the Clean Air Act. In addition to the ground level ozone, particulate matter, and nitrogen dioxide mentioned in Greg's story, the air quality index also looks at carbon monoxide and sulfur dioxide. The index is divided into 6 categories and color-coded to indicate increased levels of health concern. You can find out what the air quality index is in many parts of the state by checking our website, dep.wv.gov, and clicking on the Division of Air Quality's Air Quality Index link. You can also get information about other parts of the country by going to the U.S. EPA's site, airnow.gov. Nearly every day, each one of us contributes a little to air pollution, often without even realizing it. Sarah Alford joins us now with some simple changes we can make to help the planet breathe a little easier.
Kathy, they are small changes that taken together can make a big difference.
It starts with a cleaner commute. And the easiest way to do that is to share a ride by taking part in a carpool. Not only will it reduce the amount of pollution by reducing the number of cars on the highway, it will save you money too. Using mass transit, where available, is another good option. If your work schedule allows it, alter your schedule to avoid the morning and evening rush hour. Driving in lighter traffic will allow you to drive more efficiently, with fewer starts and stops. And for the ultimate in savings, see if your employer allows telecommuting. Avoiding the drive into work, even for just a few days a month, can make a big difference. When you do drive, try to combine all your errands into one trip and avoid unnecessary idling when not in traffic. Places like drive-through lines at banks and fast food restaurants, and while waiting to pick up passengers. 1 minute of idling your vehicle produces as much carbon monoxide as the smoke from 3 packs of cigarettes, and idling just 5 to 10 minutes a day can add up to 1 to 2 tanks of fuel wasted each year. And speaking of fuel, refueling in the morning or evening when it's cooler can prevent gas fumes from heating up and creating ozone. When you're filling up, stop when the pump clicks off. Topping off your tank just releases more gas fumes into the air. It can also harm your car's anti-pollution devices. Finally, make sure your tires are properly inflated. Underinflated tires create more rolling resistance, making your engine work harder, burning more fuel, and creating more pollution. Maintaining your vehicle by following the manufacturer's recommendations for changing air and oil filters and tune-ups can keep it running longer and cleaner.
Kathy, according to the U.S. Department of Transportation, more than 25% of all air pollution nationwide is caused by motor vehicles on the road. They also say that the average American household uses about 3 gallons of fuel every day. So not only can taking these steps make it easier to breathe, can save you money too.
Thanks, Sarah. Another area where you can help reduce air pollution is through using less electricity. Once again, here's Division of Air Quality Deputy Director Fred Durham.
You don't see the effect at the home, you see the effect at the power plant that they had to produce that electricity. And that hits all the pollutants. It hits NOx, it hits not so much VOC at the power plants, but the NOx, sulfur dioxides, and greenhouse gases are all reduced when you reduce your electricity use. So if you insulate better, you plug air leaks in your house, you get a more efficient air conditioner or heat pump in place of electric heating, you're going to reduce your use of electricity. Most of the utility companies have special programs where they'll actually come out and audit your house, and they have online audits that you can do like in 10 or 15 minutes to see where you are in the spectrum. Changing out light bulbs at your house, going from incandescent to fluorescent or LEDs.
For much more information, you can download a copy of the latest air quality report from the DEP. It contains detailed data on individual pollutants, air monitoring, and additional resources available to the public. Just visit our website, dep.wv.gov, and click the link for the Division of Air Quality. Coming up,
people are afraid to invest their money and redevelop the property because they don't know what kind of liability they're taking on.
turning old abandoned commercial properties into valuable community assets. How a DEP program is improving the economic climate in communities all across the state. Plus,
we're citizens of the earth, so we are stewards of the earth. So we're trying to get across to the students to be respectful of our environment.
lessons in recycling, how one area school is bringing that message home. Those stories and more when Environment Matters continues.